What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back in the video. Today we're taking a look at the wide receiver position, trying to predict the next big breakout. Remember, there's only like 10 to 15 players that actually make a difference to your odds of winning the championship, making the playoffs each season. So instead of targeting low ceiling players in our drafts, we want to be going after guys who are capable of league winning seasons, because at the end of the day, hitting on one or two of those players is all that really matters. So today we're going to walk through the draft. We're going to go in 3-round segments, and we're going to talk about the player I think in that range has the best league winning potential. Among the wide receivers drafted in the first 3 rounds of the draft, I think the one with the best chance of being a league winner is Malik Nabers. I'll throw an honorable mention to both Puka Nacua and Drake London as well. And again, this is within the context of ADP. I'd still draft Jamar Chase first. Jamar Chase has the best chance to be the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. But when you add in ADP, I think Malik Nabers probably has the best chance to be a league winner. No wide receiver in the history of the NFL had commanded more targets as a rookie than Malik Nabers. 170 targets last season through 15 games. Didn't even play in 2 weeks. Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito were his quarterbacks as a rookie. He was second in the NFL in targets per route run, first in first read percentage, first in percent of team receiving touchdowns among wide receivers. That's in a year. The Giants were 31st in points per game, 31st in yards per pass attempt, 28th in passing yards per game. It was like close to a worst case scenario situation that you could throw Malik Nabers into. And again, he commanded 170 targets through 15 games, 109 receptions, over 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns as a rookie. This year, both Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart would be upgrades, so it doesn't really matter which one starts. We're pretty confident that Russ is going to start, and at some point, Dart is going to take over. That just seems like the most likely outcome. But both of them are very big upgrades over what he had at all 3 quarterbacks that were playing last season. And they added 0 target competition. They still have Slayton and Wandell as the 2 behind him. And honestly, Wandell had 140 targets last year. There is room here for Malik Nabers to see exactly what he was getting last season, which will push towards 200 targets in a season. But then 140 targets to Wandell Robinson Jr., it didn't go that well, right? He was 10th among targets and wide receivers, but those were very, very inefficient targets. You have to think they're going to take some of those away. And who are you going to give them to? I mean, Malik Nabers, I don't know. I feel like he can make a case for like best wide receiver in the NFL after the season. Right now, we're not making that case. It's still the Chases and Jeffersons of the world. But I think there's a world here where like Nabers goes out there, commands like 205 targets, catches 140 balls, and we're like, oh my goodness, this kid is the best wide receiver in the NFL. In a normal year, after the rookie season we just saw from Malik Nabers, he would cost a top 3 pick in almost every season. But with how deep round 1 is for wide receiver right now, or for really all positions, but wide receiver especially is deep in round 1, you can get him in the late first round. I don't know. I think, 130, 140 reception upside is within his range of outcomes. I think among the first 3 rounds, he's the most likely wide receiver to win leagues. But again, Puka right up there with him. Drake London, given you can kind of get him in the mid-second round, I think that value as well is incredible. Rounds 4 through 6, I think the wide receiver with the most league-winning potential is Jaylen Waddle. Honorable mention to George Pickens. I love him this season. And Rashee Rice, I think because of the potential of the 6-game suspension there, that probably throws him back a little bit because you're getting him in that general round 5 range. If you miss 6 weeks, it could still limit you enough in your chance of making the playoffs that it'll hurt. But I think if you isolate like championship odds, if you could just lock in playoffs and you knew you had Rashee Rice, I think that could be league winning in the playoffs. But again, honorable mentions to Pickens and Rashee Rice, but Jaylen Waddle is the one I think has the most potential to be a league winner. He's the 30th wide receiver off boards, has a very real shot of being the number 1 wide receiver this season for the Dolphins. It blows my mind when people say that Waddle doesn't have upside. Like, of the 3 best rookie seasons ever at wide receiver for receptions, it was Nabers last year with 109. It was Puka the year before with 105. And it was Waddle a couple years before that at 104. 3rd best season ever for a rookie wide receiver. Follows that up in year 2, 1,356 yards, 8 touchdowns in the same exact year that Tyreek Hill had over 1,700 yards. then he struggles. Last 2 years with injuries, but when healthy, Waddle inarguably has wide receiver 1 upside because he was. In the 2 years he was healthy, he was a wide receiver 1 2 of the last 4 years. I think the biggest argument, though, it isn't even that. It's just the decline of Tyreek Hill. I mean, Waddle has been a wide receiver 1 in fantasy twice when we had Tyreek Hill in his prime. But the underlying data is pretty clear. Tyreek Hill isn't bad, but is on the decline. He is obviously on the decline in his career from what he was. And Waddle's very much still in his prime. So I don't think that we can go out there and say it's a guarantee that Waddle's going to be better than Tyreek Hill, but I don't think we can say the reverse as well. I think it's a lot closer than people think. We should also consider the departure of John. You know, some of those targets are, of course, going to Darren Waller. Someone go to Malik Washington. Seems like he's their third wide receiver, but probably not all of them. There's a chance that they turn some of this schemed usage that was going to Jonnu Smith last season and they give that to Jaylen Waddle. Like, there is a very real chance that they look at things this offseason. They're like, we don't know. We don't know how good Tyreek Hill is going to be. We don't know how good he's going to be mentally. Is he going to want out? Are we going to want him out? Like, what is happening here? Maybe they just kind of schemed this game plan around Jaylen Waddle instead, and he's getting more of these design looks, more of these layup routes that he really wasn't getting before. That happens. I mean, he could pretty easily clear 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, being drafted as the 30th wide receiver in fantasy. I mean, you can get him as a flex play right now. Like, he can be a wide receiver 1 this season. The path is, not unclear. We can very easily see how he could be a wide receiver 1 this season, and you can easily get him as a flex play right now in drafts. Again, I am genuinely concerned about the mental health of Tyreek Hill, and not even that. What if the Dolphins are like trending towards not making the playoffs? I feel like they trade Tyreek Hill. And if any of these things occur, not even counting an injury, if that happens too, if any of these things occur, Jaylen Waddle is the wide receiver 1 on a highly explosive offense, a highly efficient offense when they can get things going. I don't know. I feel like the upside is crazy for the wide receiver 30. Round 7 through 9. I think it's Ricky Pearsall, but honorable mention to, of course, my boy, you got to mention in every video, Emeka Egbuka. But we're going to talk about Ricky Pearsall in this one. As of recording this, Juwan doesn't have the new contract, still has a calf injury. I will say they were asked about it again. Like, they keep getting asked, like, is it a contract? Is it a calf? It does actually seem like it's both. Again, my take is he did have the injury in OTAs. He comes out there and something minor happened. And I'm talking about Juwan here. Something minor happened. And he's like, no, I'm not tearing my Achilles. You guys are going to pay me before that happens. And so I don't think he has a bad calf injury. And again, I don't want to factor that in. I'm saying regardless of the contract, of the injury for Juwan Jennings, I think that Ricky Pearsall is the one you want. I think he has the league-winning upside this season. He's been having an absolutely unreal camp. He's wide open all the time. He looks fantastic before and after the catch. He is locked into a massive role this season. And you know what? Like, look at the history of the top wide receivers on San Fran. Debo's had amazing seasons. Ayuk has had amazing seasons. Whoever is the guy, and that's even on a weekly basis, like week to week, because there's always so many injuries in San Fran. On a week-to-week basis, whoever's the guy in San Fran is getting unbelievable usage, and you can get him really late in drafts. I also think, like, they're just different. I think they're just different wide receivers. Like Juwan, it's third and Juwan, right? He is a third down specialist. He's a chain mover. He's a short area guy that we know. It's 3rd and 7. Look to Juwan. He's getting us the first. In fantasy, though, unless you play in a league that awards points to first downs, how much do we really care that he's always able to get this, like, 5 to 7 yard first down? That's not really that beneficial to us in fantasy. Even in full PPR, that's less than 2 points. And so I think the underlying stats, sometimes people point to like first downs for route run. I think specifically for Juwan, maybe we overweight that a little bit too much. We, of course, also know we had the one monster game. That's like one of the 2 or 3 good games he's had in his career. Like, I think maybe we're overweighting his performance from last season. And the longer this contract situation goes on for, it's like, well, maybe the San Fran kind of knows that too. Maybe they're like, listen, I know you had the monster game. I know we get to you on third down, But like we have McCaffrey, we have Kittle, we have Pearsall. Like you're not maybe as valuable as you're letting on to us. I don't know, because if he was super valuable, you'd think they would have locked him up by this point. So again, I don't know. We can't know with this contract situation, but I think Pearsall's better. I think he's the guy that like they wanted. Again, they drafted him round 1 last season. They want him to be their next Deebo Samuel. They want him to be a guy they scheme usage to and can get open on their own. We talk about that all the time. If we can identify the players that can get open on their own, are great route runners, are great athletes, but that'll also be schemed open by great coaches, those are the guys who have league-winning upside. And I think that's Ricky Pearsall. So I just think he's going to win in a number of different areas. I think the usage is going to be really awesome. And let's be honest, he had like a worst possible outcome last season. Goes into camp, gets hurt immediately. Comes back, gets shot in a robbery. The dude wasn't able to practice until like midway through the season, it seemed like. Of course he's not going to have that good a breakout. I think they did a really good job over at ETR, the Man vs. Machine episode, where they kind of went over this. Like Evan Silva really liked Ricky Pearsall, really liked him this season. Mike Leone was a little bit more off Pearsall because of the underlying stats. And what Silva brought up was a really good point. It's like sometimes, yes, this data is always awesome. Like yards per route run, first downs per route run, like all these efficiency metrics, when you can kind of use that to look at how good a player is, it does a really good job of isolating talent. But when you have these extenuating circumstances where you're like, okay, but it was a rookie that didn't practice in camp, that had a horrible situation happen to him open the season where he wasn't able to practice or work out for like a month after that, probably a month and a half after that. Like that's not shown in the yards per route run, the targets per route run, and the first downs per route run. Like all these things don't show how horrible of a start it was on situations that were kind of outside of his control. And he starts breaking out later in the year. And it's like, yes, that was a low sample size, but it was the only sample size where he was like finally ramped up, finally healthy, finally able to practice with the team. So I don't know. I just feel like if the situation hadn't happened last season, it's possible he starts breaking out midway through the year, starts going off to end the year, and we're drafting in round 3 or 4. And so to get him in the mid-8th round, it just feels like a really good cost. 42nd wide receiver off the board, one of the best offenses in the NFL. Maybe they weren't last season, but you look at any sort of projection this season, any sort of Vegas line, like they are going to be one of the better teams in the NFL, easiest schedule in the NFL. Like, I don't know, everything sets up for an awesome season in the mid-8th round. That's a really good price tag to pay for him. Rounds 10 through 12, I think the most likely league winner is Keon Coleman. Honorable mention to Jaden Higgins. I couldn't pull the trigger on Jaden Higgins because it's almost some of the concerns we had with Keon Coleman last year. Like, I don't know. I think I'm more convinced that Jaden Higgins is going to be a really good wide receiver. But the problem is, who's ahead of Keon Coleman? Shakir, a rotation of other wide receivers. Who's ahead of Jaden Higgins? Well, Nico Collins, right? Like Nico Collins is awesome. So that's the one reason I didn't want to put him as the most likely league winner, because the odds that he breaks out and he's a wide receiver 1 behind Nico, like he probably needs the Nico injury for that to happen. But I love Jaden Higgins' upside. I love the talent there if he can really hit that offense and get going. So I wanted to mention him. But Keon Coleman, someone that I was off earlier in the offseason because we were off of him last year, right? Last year, everything we thought would happen did happen besides the injury. But we thought that he couldn't separate in college, that if they threw him into the X role, if he wasn't separating in college, probably not going to do so in the NFL, at least right away, right? Because, you join the team, you have OTAs, you have training camp, but like how much developing do these rookies really have to start? Not that much. And so if you can't separate and you've got like a month and a half to get ready for week 1, it's unlikely that in week 1 you go out there and you separate at a high rate. And we saw that in the underlying data. It was really bad. Low success rate on different routes. Really low success rate against like man, press, mediocre versus zone. But like he wasn't good as next wide receiver last season. And again, it wasn't shocking because he wasn't in college. He just won off athleticism in college. Now, with that all being said, this is still the type of player that can dominate in Buffalo, right? Like 19.2 yards per reception last season. By far, like if you look at what they're going to do with the red zone, of course, Josh Allen running backs running, but when they throw it at the red zone, who do you think they're going to throw to? Shakir? Kincaid? No. It's Keon Coleman. He's going to be the guy they're throwing jump balls to. He's the guy they're doing everything to in the red zone. He has 12 touchdown upside this season. That is not a crazy thing to suggest. He could catch a ton of touchdowns this season, and that's the point. With Josh Allen at quarterback on the Buffalo Bills, he can score touchdowns. Josh Allen is a cannon. for an arm, and we know Keon Coleman can get downfield and just moss guys, and I think that's the play here. I think like if he just gets loose downfield a couple times this season, if he's featured in the red zone, he can rack up on 19, 20 yards per reception, a lot of 100-yard games. If he can get 10, 12, 13 touchdowns this season, that's the path to where, like, you look at the wide receivers going around him. It is guys on like bottom 5 offenses. It is second and third wide receivers on teams that don't even have good quarterbacks. Like, it is not players that we expect at any rate to have a breakout. But you look at Keon and you're like, well, Shakir has another high ankle sprain. Kincaid can't separate. He can't get open. They don't trust him more than 2 yards downfield. Palmer, I think, is fine, but it's Joshua Palmer. Like, I don't think he's some amazing wide receiver. Keon has upside this season. If he can get going, it can be like a big time breakout. And you consider, like, he was breaking out last season. Like, I don't think it was going to be a true breakout, but he had 4 for 125 and then 5 for 70 a touchdown in 2 weeks before the wrist injury. And then he really just never got going after the wrist injury. Give him the full offseason, more time to develop with Josh Allen, more time to just develop as a player. I think we could see it. And as the 50th wide receiver off boards, it's not that high of risk for someone who, again, could catch double-digit touchdowns this season. I don't know if anyone in this range has the upside to do that. Final wide receiver, go for today, rounds 13 plus. Biggest chance for a breakout is Kyle Williams. I want to reiterate that I hate late round wide receiver this season. Like, I want all my wide receivers locked up relatively early on because I don't think there are very many cases, very many good cases for a breakout wide receiver in the later rounds this season. I think Kyle Williams makes sense, but I like some breakout running backs later on. I like the quarterbacks in the later rounds. You guys know I'm fine double dipping at tight end, but I don't want to be taking too many shots at wide receivers later on. That's why 13 plus is like the last range here, because I just don't think, like, if I went to 16 plus, I don't think there's a chance that anyone going that late this season can be a true league winner. But Kyle Williams has some upside. They drafted him a little bit earlier than I think a lot of people were expecting. It wasn't crazy early, but early third round. I think it was like the 5th pick in round 3. They clearly like him. They clearly see a good role for him, and it makes sense, right? He played X in college. That's kind of the role they needed. I don't think they want Stephon Diggs to play the X role. I think they want, Douglas in the slot, Diggs on the outside, but X to be Kyle Williams, especially. They brought in Matt Collins. Of course, they have Kayshon Boutte. Kayshon Boutte's having a good camp. And I think to open the season, you're going to look at Kyle Williams and be like, well, this isn't that great, right? He's rotating. Like, we got Matt Collins out there running wind sprints. We've got Kayshon Boutte pretty much doing the same, sometimes using the red zone. Why the heck are these guys playing over Kyle Williams? It's like, well, he's still a rookie. He still has to have time to develop. So I think early on, you're probably going to look at this and be like, I don't love this. He's only playing 50% of the snaps. I think that goes up fast. I think that goes like 50, 60, 70, 80. I think it just ramps up pretty quickly. He's better than Kayshon Boutte. He's better than Matt Collins. That shouldn't need to be said. So even if he starts behind these guys, I think athletically it's there. I think as a player, we worry about Keon Coleman separating. Kyle Williams is a really good separator in college, good versus man, good versus press. He's going to be the X wide receiver on the New England Patriots by the midpoint of the season for sure. And it's a Patriots offense that better coaching staff, better coordinator, better play calling. Offensive line will be improved. Like year 2 for Drake May, like the run game's going to be better. The pass block, everything is going to be better for New England this season. And listen, people are going to focus on Stephon Diggs. I'm going to be scared of Travion Henderson in the backfield. You got to figure out, Douglas in the slot. Like, he is not going to be the primary focus. So he will be open deep downfield at times. He will, honestly, he's good deep downfield because he's quick and get open in that way. But he's shifty in the short area of the field as well. So he can get open. He's going to be good on this team. And if this offense hits the ceiling that we think it can have, you're going to be wanting Kyle Williams. He's a player that I think it'll be a flex play. I think like by the midpoint of the season, you're throwing him into the flex spot and you're like, I trust this kid. It's not every week, but he's going to have that big play potential, that touchdown upside, and that upside to maybe he passes Stephon Diggs. Maybe Stephon Diggs breaking out in camp right now, but maybe, a little bit older coming off this torn ACL, maybe he doesn't put it together the way we think. Again, I think Diggs is still a good pick, but I think maybe he doesn't put it together to the degree that we're expecting right now, and that would benefit, obviously, Kyle Williams. If Kyle Williams can have that breakout, gain that usage, maybe he has a lot more usage than people are expecting. So I think in these later rounds, Kyle Williams is probably the one I want to go after. And again, I think flex upside. Do I think he can be a true wide receiver 1? Maybe not. But I like wide receiver 1 fantasy, but you don't need that. If you're drafting him in round, it's like the late 14th round right now, you'd be pumped. If you got a consistent flex wide receiver, especially I'm talking about flex in like a traditional 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. If you're in a 3 wide receiver league and you could throw him in 3 wide receiver every week, 2 flex league, and he's your first flex, like that would be a really good pick in the late 14th round. That is definitely your last wide receiver. You're not expecting to have to use that guy, and it benefits you because that late, you don't need him to, right? You don't need him to do the flex play. If you're starting your late 14th round pick in the flex spot in week 1, something happened. You drafted all the suspended guys, and then a few guys also got hurt, so you can afford to kind of wait, see what happens, and watch his snap share ramp up, which again, I think it's going to do quickly. So those are some league-winning wide receivers, but if you want to see my entire must-draft players list, you can see that on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. And if you have a draft coming up, be sure to check out my rankings over there as well. They're always updated for the latest news, so you never have to worry about having rankings that are not up to date. That'll do it for this one, though. Thank you all for watching. If you're still here, please leave a like. Greatly appreciated. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will be back on Friday to do the same thing at the running back position.